Okay, so for anybody who has not read the book Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, if you haven't and you don't like spoilers, then I would not watch this video because I am going to be talking about me reading through this particular book. First off, the rating I would give this book is an 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it. It was very different from many genres that I've read here as of late. And I love anything that has to do with the idea of death or life or the human condition. Anything to do with that, then I'm all for it. I want to read it. And if y'all have any ideas, then please listen below. Anyways, like I said, an 8 out of 10, simply because for some people, this might not be like the length that they're used to. It's quite a short book. All in all, usually, if I were to read like I used to read, and which was basically all day, every day, I probably would have finished this book within definitely by a week. But I took my time with it because, because I had other stuff I was doing. I've been working and I've been playing WoW again, and so of course I have to keep up on my levels. One of the really so jumping into this book, we're told that we're this prisoner of war but come home from the war type dude named Billy Pilgrim, who isn't much of a soldier. He was a private throughout most of World War II, all of World War II, and he didn't do many battle type hero things. Like he was like an apprentice to a priest or people who helped with the church. Anyways, so he's not doing a lot of battling. One thing that I find is kind of funny is that he mentions twice in the beginning and in the end of the book. And he mentions in the end and the beginning of the book is his friend who, his friend O'Hare, who during the middle of the book, I don't really see him mention him at all. Like in the beginning, he's like, okay, I'm going to go visit my friend O'Hare. We were prisoners of war together, and he did this and this with me, and he's helping me write this book. And then at the end, you hear him mention O'Hare again, and that's pretty much all you hear about this guy, except that his wife does not like Billy because Billy has a penchant for alcohol. Which, can you really blame someone for having a penchant for alcohol after they've been through World War II? No matter what type of World War II it is, which is in this particular setting of the book. He is talking about the bombing of Dresden, which was not a kind of well-known fact back then. It was one of the country's dirty little secrets because it, had to deal with the bomb and killing of innocent people who really had nothing to do with the war. So, we have young Billy who goes throughout this traumatic period of his life where he is kind of a wimp. That's hard to go into and say like, hey, someone in the army's a wimp. But this particular person, kind of was. He asked his friends, or comrades I should say, several times just to let him, die and just let him be where he is. But this particular one, who we come to find out dies, named Roland, pushes him forwards, and he's a part that comes later on in the book too, because he has this picture of a Shetland pony, of a woman and a Shetland pony fucking, which he shows to Billy while they're in World War II, and he gets it taken from him from a German soldier, which this comes back at the end of the book when Billy's going through this old shop that he passed, and he ends up seeing this picture of the Shetland pony because it's a triple X like bookstore type place. Anyways, so he gets out of the war, he gets married, he goes to school for optometry, and he gets married to the dad of this girl who runs the school, and he becomes very wealthy, and everything's pretty much going good for him. I mean, he has PTSD obviously, but nothing too crazy's gone on in his life until his daughter gets married, and he ends up in a plane crash that crashes into a mountain. Also, as he crashes into this mountain and he's in the hospital, his wife loses her muffler in a car wreck on the way up there, and by the time she reaches the hospital, she dies from carbon monoxide poisoning while he's still on the operating table. So it's pretty traumatic, but you can already see kind of like psychological breaks in Billy's thinking as before he gets into the wreck, because he's talking about drawing timelines on his children's wall, and how some people's timelines will just come to right here and they'll stop, and then others will come to right here and they'll continue on, or some will continue for this type of span. And you can already see where he's becoming unhinged with reality, which he does mention that he became truly unstuck in time in World War II. But it's really crazy. Okay, so this crash that we suppose, I guess, starts off his psychological break from reality, I'm going to say, is he believes that he is picked up by Traumaphidorians who take him to this planet where they watch him and they study him, and they put him in a cage with this old actress, not old in the book, but you know, she's young then. Her name's Montana Wildhack, which we come to find out at the ending of the book that she's actually a nudie girl. Like she's a pornographer, and she does videos and still pictures, and that she's actually dead. She's been dead for quite some time, but we don't find this out until the end of the book. Another thing that I thought was interesting was how, while he's a prisoner of war, I mean, you can just tell how he's unhinged in his own memories, the psychological break he's made in between these different characters in his life, because whether because of the airplane crash, or his dementia, or his getting older, or the PTSD, because he takes certain phrases. One was from another prisoner of war that he was with, that was like, you know, you can come and everybody's gonna come have a barbecue with me after the war. Everybody in my platoon, you know, even though everybody in his platoon was dead. And he was like, my name's Wild Bob, so if you're ever in Cody, Wyoming, look out for Wild Bob. And then in the end of the book, Billy starts saying this phrase to people. Not only that, but near the end of the book, we're kind of wondering where this whole idea of Traumaphidorians and Montana Wildhack and everything, where it really kind of came from. And we start to find out more about this near the end when he enters the shop, and it's almost a foreshadowing when he meets Kilgore Trout for the first time about midway through the book. And it turns out to be like a neighbor of his. But in the ending is, I believe, the climax when we find out that Kilgore Trout wrote books talking about extraterrestrial life and how they were taking people to study them, which is basically what Billy's been saying and doing and claiming this entire time. One thing that I believe is quite essential that you need to grasp about Slaughterhouse-Five. One thing, don't judge a book by its cover, because they're like, Slaughterhouse-Five, that sounds kind of gory. And I'm like, well, it's not really gory. It's just that it's where they were kept when they were prisoners of war. And what I really like about it is how it gives a different differential of time. For Billy, he says the Tralfamadorians, I'm sorry, it's tough for me to say that, but basically that time is in lines. That time isn't fluid like a river. It's like pictures. And that you can go from this point in time and this point in time. And death doesn't really have a significance to Tralfamadorians, because even if a person's dead in 1935, they can look back in 1912 and that person's still alive. So death is really nothing to them. It's just something that happens, as they put it in the book, a body that's in bad condition. Another thing that I wrote down just to say is that, in the book, when he talks to Montana Wildhack about Kilgore Trout, which is who we believe who I believe he's gotten the information from about his travels, Montana Wildhack doesn't like Kilgore Trout. She thinks he's trash and does not promote Billy reading his stuff. Also, they mentioned a really weird phrase saying the Tralfamadorians are playing with the clocks again, which I believe is just them, well, they explain it that they're fast forwarding and slowing down time, and that essence of time right then, to see how the humans live and grow. And because apparently time, these Tralfamadorians don't die. All in all, it was a really great book. Would I recommend it to people? Yes. I'm not sure why it was like such a big deal and banned and given such bad ratings by some people. I guess mainly because of the way it's kind of anti-theological, in the sense that there's not they touch on God. They don't really hint that there's a God out there. They do mention how, the Tralfamadorians have these secrets about time. They're guilt-free. They're shameless. They know things we don't know. And you get to see a crudely drawn picture of Montana Wildhack's tits with the Serenity Prayer near the back. Spoiler alert. But anyways, yeah, that's my overview of it. And if I was y'all, I would definitely read it. Like I said, it's a short read, and I think that y'all would enjoy it. I really liked it. So, with all ado, see y'all next time.